Have you been told that you're too verbose? If you can relate to that and you want to be able to communicate more concisely with greater impact, then definitely check out this video. I'm Dr. Patricia Thompson. I'm a corporate psychologist and executive coach. You can find me at silverliningpsychology.com. And if you go through my channel, you'll see that I make a lot of different videos designed to help you to become more successful at work. Or at least I did. I haven't made a video in a while, but here I am back again. So anyway, what inspired this video was the fact that over, I would say about the past month or so, I've run across several clients actually who have struggled with their communication. And it's not that they're not articulate, it's not that they're not smart, it's not that they don't have a strong case to make, but the problem is that they talk too much. And because of that, they can fall into the territory of overselling and actually losing people through their argument. And it can be a little bit counterintuitive because you might think that to convince someone, you have to give them all the reasons to believe in what you're saying. You might believe that you have to give them all the background to show that you've done all the research so that they will understand that what you're saying is credible and compelling. But the problem is that when you go on too much, what can happen is that you lose people. They start to get impatient, wondering when you're going to get to the point. They might wonder, when will I actually get to contribute to this conversation? Or if you're providing them with a lot of information without giving them a chance to be able to process it, then you don't actually know what takeaways they're going to be running away with. And instead, you can end up with a very muddled message. So in this video, I want to give you just a few tips that you can think about so that when you're communicating the next time, you can ensure that you're communicating in an impactful way that's really clear, as well as appropriately succinct. Okay, so the first thing that I think is really important to do is to understand your audience. Now, the clients that I was working with were all communicating to executive business audiences. And one of the things that can be really helpful to understand about this audience is that typically people who are executives are very busy. They've got a lot going on. They're getting a million emails a moment, everyone's asking stuff of them. And so they put a real value on efficiency. And if you're someone who's taking a lot of time to get to the point, what you'll often find is that you'll get an impatient response, and either their attention will start to waver or they're just going to get annoyed with you as you're taking too long to get to the point. And I think if you can understand that aspect, that a lot of times people in business are moving quickly, they have a lot on their plate, they just want you to get to the point, that can help you to kind of think about that when you're trying to streamline your message. The next thing that you can do is to prepare. Now, you might not always get a chance to prepare what you're going to say because, you might have to think off the cuff. But if you're in a meeting and you know that you're going to be attending the meeting and have some time to prepare in advance, then really think about, what do I want my audience to walk away with? What are the key bullet points that I want each person to understand? And if you have a more organized, systematic framework in your own mind in terms of what to communicate, then it can help you to avoid, going down rabbit holes or becoming too tangential. So, coming into a meeting, if you're making a presentation, definitely make sure that you have some bullet points prepared. And that can help you to get to the key aspects of your message more efficiently. So my next tip is to TLDR your communication. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the term TLDR, I see it a lot on Reddit. Someone will write something really long explaining everything, and then at the end they'll have something that says TLDR, which stands for too long, didn't read, and then they will put, the 2 or 3 sentence summary of everything that they said in all of those previous paragraphs. And TLDR can be really important because if I see something that long, I might not necessarily want to read it, or I might scan it, but I'll miss a lot of different points because I don't want to go into all the details because, I might not have time to read it all. But seeing the TLDR lets me see what the crux of it is, and also gives me a sense of, do I actually want to go back and read this? Because, there might be a lot of good information in here. And so when you're communicating in a business setting, think of that from an email perspective. You don't have to put TLDR, but, think of what your summary is. And also when you're speaking, do the same. Think of, if I were going to boil this down to, 2 or 3 sentences, how would I summarize that? And then start with that so that you can orient your audience to what they should be listening for. Instead of them wondering when you're going to get to the point, they've already heard the point, and then you can give them some background information to back up that point. And so ideally, the way you would communicate would be, your high level TLDR first, and then your bullet points, right? And as you're communicating your bullet points, don't spend too long necessarily on any one. Kind of give them a little bit of background, and then leave the floor to have time for questions. And then that way, people can get into the questions or the details or things that are relevant for them. But if they don't need all the details, maybe you're making a case and they trust you, so you don't need to give all the background information, then you haven't over communicated, and in that way, it's a more efficient interaction. Another tip I have is just to be aware of the give and take dynamics in any sort of conversation. And so if you're talking with someone and you realize that you've been talking a really, really long time and they haven't said much, then there could be a chance that you're over talking. And so, be aware and check in with a question. And in general, as you get used to kind of being aware of the give and take, am I dominating this conversation? Have I been speaking too long before the person has had a chance to interact? Then you'll develop more of a sense of kind of the give and take of a relationship, I guess, and an interaction. And in that way, you can make sure that you're not taking up too much airtime when you're speaking with other people. Something else that can help you to know if you're talking too much or dominating the conversation is being aware of nonverbal cues. So sometimes you might get a verbal cue, like if somebody says, hey, I only have 5 minutes, if you try and catch them. And then, sometimes some of the clients I know who talk too much will hear that and then just keep going. And it's been, 15, 20 minutes later. And, what you hear from the person on the other side of it is that person just doesn't respect my time. So if someone gives you a hard and fast, deadline or timeline that they have available, be sensitive to that and make sure that you're communicating what you need to in a really crisp way so that, you're respectful of their time. If they don't say that, then still be aware of nonverbals. So some things that you might want to watch out for are, if people start losing eye contact, that could be a sign that perhaps they're getting a little bit distracted. And instead of trying to win them over with more language, that might be a good time to check in and ask a question. Or, an obvious one would be if someone's looking at their watch or starting to flip through papers or things like that. And again, instead of being stronger and doing more, I kind of think of this like a dog, that sometimes if you're not interested, the dog will do more to get your attention. Instead, take a step back and check in with that person. Something else that you sometimes see is someone trying to get a word in edgewise. Like I've been in conversations where I'll be kind of like, and I just can't get a word in because the other person keeps going. And so really be attuned to those sort of interpersonal cues, especially if you've received the feedback that you can tend to talk too much. And then that way, you can be more sensitive, check in. You might even say, hey, I've been going on with a long time. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you have any questions so far? Things like that, just so that you can make sure that everything is clear. The last thing I would say, just because I don't want this video to get too long, would be to ask for feedback. And so if you're someone who naturally tends to be super extroverted and talkative, you might not always be aware when you're overdoing it. And so if you have people who you trust, who you work with, who can give you feedback when you're kind of becoming overly verbose, that can help you to get more of an awareness of when you're doing it so that you can tailor your style accordingly. So, if you have a close relationship with someone and you're in a one-on-one meeting, maybe they can do the timeout signal, and that can let you know that, maybe it's time to let them talk. Or if you're in a group meeting, they can give you the eye or kick you under the table. I guess that's hard to do in Zoom, private chat you. And then that way you can know, okay, maybe it's time for me to take a breath or to check in and ask a question. And as you gain that greater awareness across time, it'll help you to better calibrate how you're coming across and better monitor yourself so that you can ensure that there is adequate give and take in your conversations. Okay, so those are some quick tips. I hope that they were helpful. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to comment down below. Also, you can like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to make more videos. Just depends on how my schedule goes. Also, you can follow me at Instagram at Psychology Silver Lining, and check out my website. I have a lot of articles that are designed to help you be more effective at work, as well as coaching services that I offer. So definitely check me out, and I will see you next time.